y'all, welcome back to another episode of Boss Up and Glow Up with Lexi Sample. If you're new here, hey, I'm Lexi. I am that best friend who's gonna hold you accountable and remind you that your soft era still requires strength. Today, we're getting into something that I swear most of us have confused at least once the difference between healing and avoiding. Because I know what it's like to tell yourself you're healing when you're really just hiding out from the pain. You block someone and call it peace. You say, I'm protecting my energy, but really you're scared to feel anything at all. So, we're going to talk about what real healing looks like and how avoidance sneaks in dressed as self care and how to actually move from numbing to growing. This episode might hit home for you, but that's how you know it is the one you needed. All right, so let's start here. What does healing really mean? Because social media makes it look like healing is all spa days, crystals, bubble baths, manifestation, and perfectly lit journaling sessions. And yeah, those things can support your healing process, but they aren't healing itself. Healing is raw. It's messy. It's the nights where you're sitting in silence, tears rolling down your face, and you don't even know why you're crying sometimes. You just know something deep in you is shifting and changing. Healing is honesty. It's looking at something from your past and finally admitting, yeah, that hurt me. Not sugarcoating it, not minimizing it, not pretending it didn't matter. It's facing the uncomfortable truth and saying, this really affected me more than I wanted to admit. And that's not weak. That is courageous because it takes strength to sit with pain instead of running from it, to stop distracting yourself with work, relationships, or doom scrolling and actually feel what's coming up. Healing is learning all of your triggers, not to avoid them, but to understand them. It's noticing, okay, when someone ignores me, I instantly feel rejected. That's not about them. That's an old wound talking. And instead of spiraling, you breathe for a second, you pause, you remind yourself, I'm safe now. Real healing doesn't mean you're never gonna get triggered again. It means when you are, you don't fall completely apart again. You don't lose yourself trying to fix or prove. You recognize the pattern and you choose differently. That's growth. That's healing. And that's where your real glow up starts to happen. Not when you're pretending you're unbothered, not when you've perfectly packaged your pain, but when you can stand in your truth, scars and all, and say, yeah, I went through it, but I didn't stay there. Now, let's talk about that sneaky twin, avoidance. Avoidance is very slick, okay, y'all? She is the master of disguise. She'll show up in your best outfit, sip your matcha, and pretend she's peace. You'll tell yourself, oh, I'm just focusing on me right now. But deep down, you're not focusing. You're distracting. You're dodging the feelings that need to be felt. You say, I don't need closure, but you're constantly checking that person who hurt you, their story every other day, maybe every other hour. You say, I'm fine, but the truth is, you're tired of pretending you're unbothered. You're tired of always being the strong one, the chill one, the I don't care one, because you do care. You're just afraid to admit it. Now, avoidance is pretty sneaky because it makes you feel in control. Avoidance says, if I don't talk about it, it can't hurt me. But silence doesn't equal healing. It just prolongs it, it just delays it. And the longer you avoid, the heavier it's going to sit on your chest. Avoidance can sometimes also look like busyness, overworking, overthinking, over scrolling, and you convince yourself you're being productive, but you're really just running away from silence and calmness because sometimes stillness feels so close to truth. And listen, I've done it too. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but that's why I can give you this advice is because I went through it. I have done these things. And I used to say I was protecting my peace when I was just avoiding my pain. I was building walls and called them boundaries. I withdrew and called it self care. But that wasn't peace. That was fear just wearing a self love costume or disguise. Avoidance numbs and healing frees. See the difference there? Really think about the difference there, and then you'll know if you're truly healing or if you're avoiding something. When you're avoiding, you tend to feel disconnected from people, your purpose, even from yourself, and you lose touch with your own emotions because you've been constantly dodging them for so long. So, if lately you've been feeling maybe stuck, drained, or detached, it might not be burnout. It might be avoidance, and you're avoiding something. But what? The truth is, healing requires presence. You can't heal what you refuse to face. You have to slow down long enough to feel it, to name it, and to release it. And I know that's the hard part. It's always so hard to acknowledge something, especially when you don't really know fully what's going on, but you know something's wrong, but you're not sure what. So, yes, it can be hard to acknowledge it, but that's where the transformation happens because what you don't face will keep chasing you and chasing you and chasing you until you finally stop and say, all right, I am ready to face it head on. Okay, to figure out if you're truly healing or avoiding, we need to do a little self audit here, okay? How do you know if you're actually healing or just avoiding? This is where shit gets real because sometimes what we call growth is just really a well dressed version of avoidance. So let's check in with ourselves for a minute. Ask yourself, do I feel lighter or just numb? Do I actually reflect or do I just distract myself with noise or distract myself with projects or being busy? Have I forgiven or did I just stop talking about it because it's easier to pretend it doesn't matter? If your so called peace depends on pretending something didn't even happen, that's not peace. That's avoidance with lipstick on, okay? You can call it self care all you want, maturity, or even protecting your energy. But if you can't think about it without your chest tightening, your heart beating, your palms sweating, it is still sitting in you. You just buried it. Healing brings awareness, it brings clarity, it brings growth and emotional honesty. You can look at a situation and say, that really hurt me, but I understand it now. I learned from it. I don't carry it anymore. Avoidance, though, avoidance brings almost amnesia in a way. It makes you forget parts of yourself. You forget your own needs, your own voice, because facing the truth feels too heavy. So you just completely shut it down instead. And don't get me wrong, y'all. Sometimes your mind protects you because maybe you're just not ready yet. That's called survival, and that is okay. That is all fine and good. There is no shame in that whatsoever, but staying there forever, that is not healing. You're hiding. Healing asks for courage, avoidance asks for comfort. One helps you release, and the other helps you repress. And the longer you hide from what hurt you, the more power it holds over you. And it'll hold power over you for so long because you're not releasing it. So maybe the real question you should start asking yourself is, are you protecting your peace or are you protecting your pain? Because true peace doesn't require pretending. It's quiet, it's honest, it doesn't demand you to forget what happened. It invites you to finally make peace with it. Okay, y'all, let's get into how avoidance pretends to be healing because she's a performer, okay? You might be like, wait, what? How can avoidance pretend to be appeal? How can avoidance pretend to be healing? It can. Low key, avoidance deserves an Oscar award because the way she can act like she's doing the work, sometimes avoidance dresses up as self improvement. You're in the gym every day, you're journaling like a pro, y'all, grinding at work. But if you're being real, you're not actually feeling. You're just channeling your pain into productivity. You're trying to outrun your emotions by staying busy enough that you don't have to face them. And sure, the glow up is gonna look good on the outside, but internally, you are just tired and drained because no amount of hustle can heal what you're refusing to feel. And honestly, I've done the same thing. When I was on my healing journey, I tried to keep myself as busy as possible. And that's why I honestly don't like that advice where people say, oh, just stay busy, just stay busy. No, because that's avoiding. You're not feeling. You need to sit there, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to scream because I was burning myself out. I was working out like 2, 3 times a day. I would go to the gym and then I would go on a long walk and then I would go on a run. Like I was just distracting myself. And that's not the way to do it because I wasn't actually feeling. But when I actually sat there and felt my emotions, I started to actually heal and I started to actually get better. Then there's the version of you that hides under boundaries. You don't communicate, you just cut people off. You call everyone toxic because it's easier than saying, that situation triggered something in me that I still haven't dealt with yet. Boundaries are meant to protect your peace, not isolate you from accountability. Real healing means learning to express your limits without disappearing. And sometimes avoidance even sneaks into spirituality. You start saying things like, oh, I've outgrown them, or the universe removed them for a reason, which can be true in a sense, but sometimes you just say that because you're just scared to confront the version of you who tolerated that dynamic. You labeled it alignment, so you don't have to admit that it still stings. Avoidance is all about control, okay? It's about trying to micromanage your emotions so you never have to feel unsafe again. But healing is about surrender. It's about letting go of the illusion that you can control every outcome, every emotion, every ending. And I know surrender is terrifying. It feels like you're falling. It feels like free falling without a net, like you just skydived without a parachute. But that's where freedom actually lives. Because once you stop clenching so tightly to control, you make room for peace, grace, and genuine growth. Avoidance wants you to perform like you're okay. Healing invites you to be honest when you're not. And that is the difference between looking healed and truly being healed. Real healing, it's quiet. It's not loud or dramatic. It's that moment when something reminds you of your past, and instead of constantly breaking down, freaking out, shaking, trembling, you breathe and you just keep on pushing. You keep going. It's realizing you don't have the urge to prove your worth anymore. You stop rehearsing old arguments in your head. You stop needing them to see your value because you finally see your own value. Healing feels like softness returning after years of survival mode. You start letting love in again. You start trusting people again. You start trusting yourself and loving yourself again. You realize forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. And when you can finally tell the story without crying, that's when you know I've stopped surviving and you've started living. Healing isn't about forgetting, it's all about remembering without pain. Okay, y'all, let's talk about moving from avoiding to healing because a lot of times avoiding just comes naturally first and then you can figure out how to heal. A lot of times, like 90% of people don't heal right away. They avoid first. Okay, I made that statistic up in my head. Usually they're backed by facts, but a lot of people is just what I'm getting at. Okay. Awareness is cute, but transformation, that's the real flex. That's when you can say, damn, I changed. I'm glowing up. Step one, admit what hurts. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge, okay? Stop downplaying your pain just because someone else had it worse. That doesn't make your experience any less valid. It's okay to say, yeah, that breakup broke me, or that friendship ending still stings, or that situation made me question my worth. Naming it doesn't make you weak, it makes you honest. And honesty is where healing starts. Stop performing strength. And what I mean by that is you don't have to be the unbothered one all the time. You don't have to act like nothing gets to you just to prove how much you've grown. You can be both strong and emotional. You can cry and still be powerful. You can miss someone and still know they're not meant for you. Pretending you're fine isn't strength. Processing what happened is. You need to sit with silence. And this one is hard because sometimes silence is so loud it feels like it's almost screaming at you. Sit there, no music, no scrolling, no distractions, just you, your thoughts, and your breath. Stillness can be uncomfortable because that's where the truth lives, but clarity hides in the quiet. When you finally stop filling every single second with noise, your intuition gets louder. You start to hear what your soul has been trying to tell you all along. I always mention journaling, but you gotta journal your triggers. If you're not constantly seeing what triggers you, you're gonna forget or you're not gonna know. Because when you're triggered, sometimes you don't realize you're triggered, if that makes sense. When something hurts and bothers you, don't run from it. Write about it. Ask yourself, what does this remind me of? Why did this comment bother me so much? Journaling isn't about just venting. It's about connecting the dots. It helps you trace your reactions back to the root. And once you see the pattern, you can actually break it. That's why I emphasize journaling so much because it helps you see a pattern. It's not just, oh, I'm letting out my feelings. But when you go back and look at what you wrote, you can see what the trigger was. What are the patterns that are constantly happening? What is consistent? What needs to change? Let people love you through it. Listen, healing alone feels safe, but healing in community is what actually transforms you. Let your people show up for you. Don't push them away. Let them remind you you're not too much. You're not too broken. You're not too late. Vulnerability doesn't make you a burden. It makes you a human. Sometimes the lesson isn't how to do it all yourself. It's how to receive love without pushing it away. Avoidance says, I don't care. Healing says, I care and I'm ready to grow. And that is the energy we're stepping into. You deserve the kind of peace that isn't fragile, the kind that doesn't crumble when life gets loud. Peace that's not performative, not temporary, not dependent on pretending you're okay, but peace that's rooted. Peace that can handle chaos because it was built on the truth. That's what healing gives you. You deserve that kind of peace. All right, y'all. I want to thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Boss Up and Glow Up with Lexi Sample. If this episode made you realize you've been avoiding more than healing, don't shame yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. You were doing what you needed to do to survive. But now you are ready to thrive. Healing isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about learning to face what hurt you and still choosing to grow. Avoidance looks peaceful. Healing feels peaceful. See the difference there? You want to feel peace. You don't just want it to look peaceful. You don't have to rush. You don't have to fix everything today. Just take one honest step toward yourself. Your glow up starts the moment you stop running from your truth. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Boss Up and Glow Up with Lexi Sample. And if this episode spoke to you, send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Tag me on TikTok or Instagram. And I love seeing all of your takeaways. And remember, real healing might not be pretty, but it is always powerful. So until next time, keep glowing, keep growing, and I will talk to you next week. I love you so much. Bye.